mostly mics, mini excavator throttle fix tutorial.
If you have a mini excavator like me, it doesn't have to be an AGT QK16R. It could be any brand out there. You probably have a throttle that looks similar to this. And it's supposed to lock when you push the button. And there's something wrong with this one. We're going to figure out what's going to fix this thing. So if you look at it at this angle, see how that's kind of loose? It looks like it's a locking nut, but it was never tightened right at the factory. And it looks to me like when you push this thing, see that there's like teeth on here that match up with that little sprocket looking thing there, or gear looking thing. And it's definitely not lining up the way that it should. When they build these things, I'm sure you know they're not the greatest craftsmanship in the world, but that explains the price of them. You can see like here they have like a hexagonal cutout for the head of the bolt, and on the opposite side there is a nut. We're gonna have to tighten that up, but I think I'm gonna pull everything apart and grease it, and I'm gonna look at the routing of the cable. And I was never happy with the way that the overall feel of the throttle. It feels like there's a lot of slop in there, so I want to fix that too. So I don't know what happened. This is the day of editing, and I just realized that I lost all of the footage to this when I did the original repair. So this is the future me coming back. And basically, we're going to take this nut the whole way off. And hopefully, I'm not going to drop it down inside like I did the last time. I'm going to mitigate that right now. Okay, so I'm going to take this magnet and hold it in close proximity to that nut. And hopefully it won't do what it did the last time. And yeah, it dropped the nut right down inside the engine bay, which was a complete disaster to fix. But under the nut you have this like washer plate thing here that it's moving under my finger. If I can do this without dropping it. Now this is aluminum, so it's not gonna. But I sprayed this with white grease, lithium spray lube. But you can see there's a little wavy washer that kind of puts everything under like spring tension in there. We're gonna set that carefully off to the side where it isn't gonna get like knocked over. And I'm gonna show you the inside of this. Oh. And the bolt will just press out the back side into that little indentation. And this is 10 millimeter. And then this piece comes out all together. Now, when I did this originally, this was all just caked with rust in here because the machine sat outside. We don't want that. So basically, you have this push button on the end, and when you push it, see how those teeth disengage on that like gear rack type thing. And I wish you would have seen this when I had originally taken it apart. It was complete rust in there, just brown. Now, and so was the housing here, but it looks great now. And this is your throttle cable down here. See the end of the cable, that aluminum end. And basically stick this down in, and it kind of, this part goes right over top of the cable end, and yep, I can feel it pulling against the throttle spring in there when it's lined up. But you have to hold this all together, and then make sure your wavy washer is on here yet, and just put everything back in. You can see that there's these two prongs that stick up here, and they go, you can kind of see the middle there. That keeps it from backing the bolt out, and that goes vertical. You want to make sure that this is going vertical when you go to install it, as shown. I'm going to take our bolt. We're going to push it through from the other side, and then we're going to start And this is a nylon type locking nut. And this is one of the most crucial steps right here. You don't want to drop that nut down in the engine bay. Trust me on that one. And we succeeded here. And as long as you hold your finger on the back side, you can just tighten this right up. What we're going to do is pull that thing side to side. Now, if you want to skip all the lubrication and chance like wearing things out inside, you can do that. I mean, you could just tighten this nut up and probably fix that. But I'm going to show you some stuff here in a second that you got to be careful of. Now, the nut actually felt like it hit a stop there. You know, I didn't like lay into it or anything. And you got to just go by your feel. You don't want it to like be sloppy and rattle, but you still want it to move smoothly. And I think I'm a little too tight here. And that actually feels pretty darn good. Now that white spray grease that I spoke of is the Lubriplate Spray Lube A. Pretty sure I got this on Amazon. I'll include the Amazon link in the description. Visiting my store really helps this channel through small commissions I earn from any sale. Now in the engine bay, your air cleaner is right here. We're going to just spin this wing nut off, get a look at the throttle cable. Hold on, I'm going to grab a 10mm wrench. We're just going to take the entire air cleaner off so we get a better view of what's going on under here when you engage the throttle. Now these are Rado 420 engines in most of these excavators, 420cc motors. They're pretty much all built about the same. So we're going to spin that 10mm nut off, just pull up, air cleaner comes off, drop the washer on the ground. And then this piece just lifts off of here. And it only goes on one way. There's like a little tab. Bend the camera down. There's a little tab right here. And it coincides with that slot right here. In here you can see what happens when I engage the throttle. You have the end of your cable, which this is a kind of a chintzy setup. The cable kind of wraps around and goes on up. And I have a hydraulic cooler on mine. But it's up in here is where the end of the cable is that goes up through to the throttle. Yours might be a little different than this, but the gist of it is all the same. So you have a bracket right here with a Phillips screw, and that's the end of your cable. You can slide that back and forth to take the slop out, and then you have this little barrel stop that is on the throttle itself. That's the throttle right here that I'm moving. But you can see that the cable here is pretty well, I had to adjust that. And they leave a ton of slop sticking out the opposite end. You just want to make sure that that slop isn't going to rub against anything or interfere with any other workings in the motor. But watch when I engage the throttle with the lever up there. And that pretty much gives us our full range. You can see that it's against its stop over here. And then the spring is enough to take it all the way back. Not quite all the way back, though. I'm thinking about putting a heavier spring on here. And if I get that figured out, I'll probably put it in another video. But that's pretty much the gist of how you do all this for your throttle adjustment and refurbishing your throttle. I'm going to put this all back together here. My Silly Mike's having a hard time hitting the hole on his air cleaner cover. There it is. And our full throttle, we It's almost impossible to get this particular linkage set up to go from here to here. This at least gives us a feel for our entire throttle. Before, I couldn't actually get that out of it, but it wasn't locking in place either, so while you were idling or running the machine, it would be drifting around on you. That actually feels pretty darn good. And that's the fix, guys. If you want to help this channel, visit my Amazon store, like, share, subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.